Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound, brought to you by Saas Group. I'm your host, I'm Nadena, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Rebholz, co-founder and CEO of Superglue, a partner ecosystem engagement platform for SaaS companies. And before that, Rob has founded a SaaS company that generated over 50% of its eight-figure revenue by partnerships. So he knows a thing or two about this, and I'm coming from being a growth and partnerships executive. So I really would love to dig into it and see how you're leveraging this. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great. It's great that you made the time. So, first of all, love the name Superglue. Super cool.
I,
But
you know,
what's
in my last company, we had the challenge that we picked a name and this isn't the name wasn't perfect in the sense that people would remember it, etc. And we always said, oh, we can always change it. And now the company is like well known, and it's so hard to change a name. So with Superglue, I
yeah.
said we need something that's going to stick.
Yes. Oh, it sticks. But
Yeah.
yes, what's super glue and how did you come up with it?
Yeah, so like you said, like I built a company before in the MarTech space, and we kind of, we never really thought about partnerships when we started it, but I think like 2 years, 3 years in, we had customers approach us and they asked us about integrations, and we, to be quite frank, didn't have any clue about the value of integrations, but customers were very keen, so we built integrations. The integrations led to more value for our customers. That led to better relationships and closer relationships with the people that we integrated into marketing automation platforms. And that led to what you said, right? Us driving the majority of our business via partnerships. And not just that, right? The best deals all come from partners, etc., etc. So I realized there's a big opportunity there. And as I transitioned out of my role at Optilize, my previous company, I was thinking about different opportunities, and yeah, really like the partnership space, and felt like there was a need for tech. Because you look at sales, everybody has sales engagement tools, marketing, everybody's marketing automation tools. You look at partnerships, and it feels like sales 10 years ago. Everything is
Yeah.
manual, and that just creates a lot of challenges. And so yeah, so we started Superglue, which is, like you said, it's a partner engagement platform. It's basically, like, some people have called it an AI assistant. So a tool that you connect to your data sources that basically tells partner managers who to interact in their partner ecosystem, when and how, in order to drive more revenue.
Okay, so sounds super cool. Sounds like I needed you guys about a year ago, but
Yeah, I needed us too. Yeah.
it was all manual, and I started digging a bit deeper into Superglue, and it was like I was doing it all manually. It was like just digging through LinkedIn and all the profiles and like what people were doing, and like trying to go by the rules where like find a point where you bring value and talk about that point. And it was just a lot of manual work. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Let's talk a little bit more about how you're doing it, because again, coming from it all like manual work, a lot of digging around. How do you make sure that basically your product knows what kind of leads, what kind of partnerships I need?
Yeah. So I have to say, like, people use us not to recruit partners, because for partner recruiting, you can use sales tools. People
Sure.
use us from the point of the first interaction through the entire partner life cycle. The big challenge is, if you look at partnerships today, people sign these partnership agreements, and two partnership managers like each other, and then they're kind of like, oh, we're done. Everything is good. The reality is that a good partnership is it's not the result of a a signed agreement. It's the result of really good relationships between the people who work in the organizations, right? The people who bring you into deals are the salespeople in your partner's organization, right? Or the customer success people. So you really need to get to them. And very often the way it works today is you have a lunch and learn with, where you pitch your product to your partner's sales team, for example, and then you send them a long email and you forget about them. And in reality, what you need to do is you need to build that relationship, kind of like in a CRM, like a loyalty program, for example. You need to stay in touch
Yeah.
with them. You need to make sure they feel valued, they're excited, they trust you, they know what you do, and where you add value. And that's a process of lots of individual touch points. So the way Superglue works is you connect us to your different data sources, like obviously your CRM, where you have a lot of data. The interesting thing is, yes, we connect to the CRM like a lot of other tools, but we use different data in the CRM. So to give you an example, for example, a partner sourced a deal for you. They brought you into an account. You then have your sales team work on that account trying to close that deal. What you should do, normally people don't do it, is you should keep the partner up to date on where that deal stands. Oh, that deal is now in the verbal commit stage. The deal is now, we closed it. And that's something that Superglue does, right? It alerts the partner manager. We do all of that in Slack, by the way. Hey, that deal that this partner provided is now at this stage. Should we update the partner and let them know what's happening? So this is one topic, like linked to Salesforce data. But then there are also other new tools like Crossbeam and Reveal. So those are tools that have seen incredible success in the last couple of years. They're basically account mapping tools. So two companies that partner connect their CRMs through these tools, and the tool gives them an overlap or overlaps of opportunities of the partners, the customers of one company that are opportunities for the other, and it helps you identify where you can sell together. So it's a new type of data, overlap data, and we use that data too to trigger certain notifications. And we build features around that stuff. So yeah, lots of different kind of data sources that we use to implement smart triggers. And then within Superglue, you can customize kind of templates, use templates and blueprints, how to interact with the people that, when there is an alert that goes off.
Right.
You obviously have an AI, ChatGPT enabled functionalities to have, ChatGPT draft, for example, joint value propositions. So yeah, it's new types of data, different types of interactions, and different types of requirements that all come into kind of through that we merged in Superglue.
Right. Okay, wow, that's super cool. It sounds like I really, really needed you. Oh no. Miss chance. But but it's great that you started talking about the way you came up with Superglue. You mentioned you needed integrations, but then all the deals and all the relationship came from partnerships, and those are very different because, again, as a partnership manager, I worked with both. It was a technical startup, so we did have integrations, and they I mean, they did require some kind of relationship, but we basically knew that we're a small bootstrap SaaS and you're a small bootstrap SaaS. So if we mention you and you mention us, at some point maybe it will work. But partnerships were a bit of a different journey, right? So how did it work for you? How did you make the decision to go into partnerships, not do anything for like integrations, not become Zapier, but help
Yeah.
partnership managers?
Yeah, I think there are lots of really cool tools. Actually, there are lots of really cool tools being started right now that make integrations easier and
Hmm.
help with that challenge. Because yeah, traditionally you build integrations, a lot of work. I think, and that's a technical challenge that has to be solved, and people are, lots of interesting companies are addressing that.
Yeah.
I found the relationship side of things really interesting because I have a marketing automation background. I understand sales pretty well, and I've run sales teams, and I've always seen how those departments use automation, now AI, and I just felt like that is a really big opportunity, and it's a big opportunity because it's a big revenue opportunity, right? It's like immediate. If you do partnerships right, it's an incredibly powerful revenue driver, and I really wanted to really help build that revenue machine for partner organizations and for SaaS companies.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. So, can you maybe talk a little bit about the way you turned partnerships into money making machines for the previous company, and now how you leverage it for Superglue?
Yeah, it's the interesting thing is because everything is manual, like you said, um, the the people, right, like the your partners, salespeople, etc. Nobody's really investing that much time in them, or very few people
Mm.
are. So what we did at in my previous role, the way we made this successful is we really started to think about very systematically who are these people, like which organization do they work for? Like partners are different, right? You have different types of partners and they have different interests. So that's the first dimension. Then you need to think about the people themselves. A person in your partner's organization, you need to help them sell deals, or you have to make them understand that you can help them sell deals. That's when they like you. For customer success people, it's different. You have to prove to them or communicate like how you make their customers happier. That's kind of the mindset, how what are their interests. It's not just about you, hey, I want leads. And then we invested a lot of time kind of trying to figure out, especially in the early days, figuring out like who do we need relationships with. To give you an example, like we, for example, had a really good relationship and still have with Salesforce. And at Salesforce, you have this, the hierarchy. And what we realized is if we get the regional vice presidents on our side, those are huge kind of influencers because they're close to the business, to the people selling. They have a lot of reach, but they still have authority. So I think you need to be systematic about figuring out who you need on your side and how you convince them. I, for example, never approached anybody and told them, "Hey, I need help from you." I always try to add value first, right? Like, add value is like can come in many ways, but like just showing them that I want to make them successful. And then it turns, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
they like you and they bring you into deals, and it becomes a very, very interesting, there's a very interesting dynamic going on. No.
Right. So it's basically like I scratch your back and you scratch mine. So so give to get kind of strategy, which is I understand
Yeah.
it works absolutely, and it's
Mhm.
been working for me too. Are there any other strategies that work as
Yeah.
well when it comes to building partnerships?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, in a lot of people that talk about best practices and partnerships, or like how do you activate a partner? They always say like, oh, I have to give my partner a lead first, and if I give them a lead, they will give me a lead back. If you
Yeah.
can do that, awesome, right? It's really easy because you're, hey, give you something, you give me something back. But very often it's just not possible. Very often you just don't. Like in our case, for example, we partner with everybody. So if I give one partner a lead, I'm taking that lead from another partner that's already working with that company probably. So we could never do that. And other strategies are, you don't always have to do, provide leads. If the partner understands that if they bring you into a deal, the likelihood of them closing that deal is higher. Uh, you know, that's extremely valuable, and that's an important story because for example, you can help fill a feature gap, right? Like that's also something that's really powerful. And every company has feature gaps. Like there is no say. Why does Salesforce have the biggest partner ecosystem in the world? Because they have like millions of feature gaps that are addressed by
That's
partners.
true.
And if you make an AE understand that selling to somebody that needs that specific feature, you're really in a good position. I've seen companies, and we did this, that really delight their partners, customers. We had a couple of customers that approached to very senior people in our partners organizations, said, "Hey, We're incredibly happy right now. We've done so much cool stuff. And then when they asked questions about it, it turned out that part of that, success, etc., was driven by our integration into their solutions. So that's just incredibly important too, like happiness, because that reduces churn. And then there's just also the last one is maybe not as sustainable, but influence. I mean, if you are a company that is incredibly hyped, if you open AI right now, everybody wants to partner with you and be associated with you.
Sure.
And there is
Yeah.
appeal in that too. It's I don't know how sustainable that is, but it's a door opener too.
Right, absolutely. So basically, it's still adding value in one way or another, whether you're adding with your
Yeah.
hyper growth, hyper virality, or whether you're adding with your personal brand or whatever, maybe your connections, you are adding something, and that's how partnerships
Yeah.
grow. Okay, so it's great
By
that
the way,
you
and that's so
yeah,
important. Oh,
sure,
sorry to
sure.
interrupt you. I was going to say it's value. Value is so important because very often, people are like, "Oh, who do you sell to?" Oh, I sell to, I don't know, big retailers in France. Oh, we also sell to big retailers. Who do you sell to in these organizations? Oh, I sell to the marketing partner. Yeah, me too. And then they're like, "Oh, we could partner." And very often, that's not enough. Just because you have the same target and the same uh, contact person or department you're selling to, that's not enough to sell. I think value is really the point. Like, do two companies provide value? Do they have a story together? And if you don't, then maybe you shouldn't partner
Yeah.
because it's a waste of time.
True. Oh, it's even something that, and we're not even partnering on this podcast, but whenever I ask a founder to come to the podcast to make sure that I understand where they're coming from, and when I tell them about the previous guests, I make sure that I showcase somebody that's relevant to them. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
saying that maybe, I don't know, to a very technical founder saying that Rand Fishkin was on the podcast maybe wouldn't make so much sense. But DHH, oh yeah, sure, I want to be associated with the podcast that had DHH here. So yeah, completely understand. It's great that you also mentioned like the seniority or like the personal brand that comes to this
Mhm.
equation. Because when I was researching about you and what you're doing, I've listened to another podcast about partnership management, and I can't remember who said that, but she was talking about the fact that partnership manager can no longer be a junior position, because what you have to bring to the position is value of your personal brand and your personal connections. So, and you've been in the space for so long. Um, does it also help um, grow Superglue and the whole hype around it?
Yeah, I think so. I hope.
Thank
Otherwise, I'd
you.
be wasting my time. No, I'm with you. Yeah, I think personal brand is like there is a lot of value in that, in having reach, having recognition, being known for certain topics. So I think yeah, it's definitely a door opener. Obviously, it only gets you this far, right? And then you need to deliver
Right.
more. But yeah, it's definitely very helpful and has been very beneficial for us as a company, I would say, or hope.
Okay.
I would no, I'm
Yeah.
pretty confident actually.
Yeah. So grow your personal brand, then apply for partnership manager positions.
Yeah,
Yes, that's true.
and I was just gonna say I would say it's I know not everybody likes to be, out there and like, I don't know, posting stuff on LinkedIn every other
Yeah.
day. So I think it is a door opener. It can be powerful. It's not a prerequisite. I know a bunch of incredible partner managers that are just not, just don't have a personal brand. But yeah, but if you're interested in taking that step, if you have that kind of the personality to some extent to do that, because I think you don't, that is part of the game. It can be very powerful, and probably whatever you do. If you're in sales, same thing.
Yeah. I think it's very similar in a way to sales. So if you're not like an outgoing person that's ready to listen and to see how you can benefit other people and other businesses, then probably that's going to be a challenge. But okay, let's talk more about your personal brand because you're a bit of a superstar on LinkedIn. So I was really surprised when you just said, "Okay, sure, let's do a podcast." I was like, "Yes, sure, let's do it."
Hey, this is all
Um,
part of building a brand, right?
right? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Superglue and how you guys are well known already, even though you're a very very young company. Partially, I guess,
Mhm.
because of you and what you're doing, um, and you're advocating for growth through partnerships, right? And it's totally valid because I'm also coming from a space where it was a great strategy for us. It gave us such a boost,
Mhm.
but at the same time, you decided not to use your personal brand and your relationships, your connections, and the partnerships that you've already built in order to grow Superglue. You went the VC route. Um, why
Mhm.
did this happen, right? Why didn't you want to stay bootstrapped? And again, did your personal brand help you raise a round?
Yeah. Yes, I would say that it definitely had. Well, actually, the first investor who said yes and wants to invest was FJ Labs, and they invested in my previous company. So I would argue I already had a partnership with
Okay.
them, and that created a lot of traction because just you get the right
Yeah.
investor to come on board first, etc. And we just felt like for our what we want to build, and uh, it's always a question. Like, I love bootstrapping and I admire every company that achieves that, but I think it's this balance between how much money do I need to get to the point of profitability, um, versus how much control do I want to give somebody else, or do I want somebody else on board. In our case, I think we knew that there's an investment case in terms of the platform, the tool that we wanted to build. And the second thing, I think what we did is we were very selective about our investors. So the fund that led the round, the partner at that fund is the guy who built the Airtable ecosystem. So we didn't just get an investor on board who gave us money. We also got like an incredible expert on board that really, I sometimes call him our third co-founder because he's David Peterson. He's just like an incredible investor and an incredible person to have on our side. So it never felt like, I know it's always this, oh, bad VCs, versus I have full control. I think it depends who you work with, and in our case, it just all made sense. I think you need to look at it like from all kinds of angles, and there is no perfect solution, right? Like there's always an up and a downside, but we're very selective. We didn't just go out and raise money. We actually got really strong supporters on board who also had a network. Also, you know, quite a few of our initial customers came through the investors. So these are all benefits that I think we had. But those all aren't always there in every VC fundraise. I've seen a lot of companies raise money from people that created pressure, didn't understand their business model, etc., etc. So I think it's just about being selective and being kind of strategic about what you do. Whatever you choose to do.
Right. I've talked with another founder, and he said the decision point between bootstrapping and going with the VC is competition and ambition. So if your competition
Hmm.
are this big, huge companies that have all the money in the world, then probably look for VCs to back you. And if you have the ambition to like grow rapidly and like win the market, and you have a complex product, then again, go with VCs.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was gonna say, yeah, I think that those are great points. That's very true. It's obviously not always the case, right? You always see these exceptional companies just come out of nowhere, bootstrapped, and just dominate even in markets where there aren't, where there are already big players. But I'm with you. It's, if you there are certain settings where you just need money, and where you can't just build a product, generate money to self fund from day one, and yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. And I feel like now it's a very strange situation where we got used to the fact that if you're successful, you kind of have to be VC backed, right? Otherwise, you're not in Forbes and you're not on the list and blah blah
Yeah,
blah. But now it's the other way around, and the VC funded startups are often stigmatized because, like, oh, but you
yeah.
had all this
Yeah,
money, and I raised my startup out of my garage. And I feel like both routes are very valid, but they had a different journey. And yeah. Okay, let's talk about again partnerships. Obviously, that's why we're here. And there are partnerships and there are good partnerships. Sorry. So, what makes one the other? Are there any hacks? Are there like maybe 2 or 3 points that founders have to look out for when they're asking for partnerships, or when they're even reaching out for an integration that later can become a great partnership that would bring the value, bring the customers, bring the revenue?
yeah, yeah. Good, really good question. I think there are like foundational mistakes, and then there are mistakes in kind of how you run partnerships. The I made almost all of them myself. I think
Let's
one
talk
more
about
kind of
it.
basic mistake. Yeah. How much time we could do this like Joe Rogan, 3 hours.
Yes.
No, I think the the more foundational mistakes that I think everybody makes is they don't figure out the ideal partner profile. When you run a sales process, like, and you have a sales team, you are hyper focused on your ideal customer profile. And if a salesperson shows up with an opportunity that isn't in that ideal customer profile, a good VP of sales will probably tell them, hey, however good this looks, we're not doing it. And there are good reasons for it. And in partnerships, I think that mindset isn't established yet. People are like, hey, this person is interested. This person just reached out. This could be nice. This could work out. And people end up, and I did this, like, I just partnered with everybody in the early days. And it just ended up being a total waste of time, a lot of it. So I think, understanding your ideal partner profile is essential. When you partner with people, I think one thing that people underestimate is like the importance of organizational buy-in, both in your partners' organizations as well as in yours, because ultimately it's not the two partner managers that then generate the revenue. It's like the partner has salespeople that need to be willing to bring you into deals, and you need to have salespeople that are willing to bring partners into deals, and customer success people, etc. And if you don't have that, this isn't going to work. It's just a waste of time. No partner manager can solve that problem. So it's really, partnerships is not an isolated department. It's an organizational mindset, I would argue. Um, that's kind of the big, I think, foundational issues that I see in organizations. When it comes to actually running the partnership, what I see is, one mistake is what we talked about earlier, kind of why we founded Superglue, is people don't build relationships. They sign agreements, they have all of this formal stuff, but they don't build relationships. You need these people on your partners organizations to, like I said, like, know you, trust you, feel valued, be excited. That's when the magic happens. So that's really something where, yeah, you need to invest time. And then what I see is, like, again, coming back to the initial point about the partner profile process. Like, this is not a thing where, and I did this, like, you're just all over the place and you coordinate and you hope that things happen, and they will. It's you need to get to the point where you have a process where like, this is how we partner, this is who we partner with, these are the steps, this is how we get these people excited, how these are the touch points. So yeah, I think that's also something that's building a process. Obviously, think about tech as well. Not just Superglue, but overall, think about how you can make people more productive. And then the other thing is, and I think you mentioned this too, right? You said in partnerships you need to. I think you said like you need to have seniority.
Yeah.
You do need some experience, right? Like this is it's if you hire the first salesperson, you're probably not going to hire somebody who has never done sales before.
Right.
Or you might if you have a good VP already or somebody who trains them. But if you like as a head of sales, let's say, you're not going to take somebody and be like, oh, that person is smart, they can probably figure it out. You're going to pick somebody who's done it before. And in partnerships, the funny thing is, I see this all the time. I think a bit more in Europe than in the US. But the people are like, oh, partnerships. Like I see interns running the partnership department. Like literally, like, oh, hey, you're here for 3 months. How about you build an ecosystem? And it just doesn't work. It doesn't work anywhere else. Uh, and it doesn't work in partnerships. I'm not saying there isn't an exception out there, but you need to understand how these things work. You need to know how things are, done. You need to have a bit of a network, ideally, where you can make these, get somewhere. So I think that really helps. And we can't underestimate the complexity of that role.
Right. No, completely understand. And I wasn't the best partnership manager. I mean, because I was so new in the space. It was a tech startup. I've never done this before, and I was just like you said, I was just jumping all over, partnering with everybody, and hoping that it would work. So, what?
I
Um,
did too, by the way. So I think
okay,
both of us,
yes,
we both
I'm not
weren't.
alone.
I think no, I sucked initially. I think I had the advantage that I was a founder and I was just like, hey, I believe in this. I'm going to work on it. Like this is just like it was a strategic commitment, but I could probably have gotten where we got a lot faster. I think there are just things that mistakes that I made that somebody else wouldn't have made. It worked out in the end, but that doesn't mean it could have been less painful at times.
Right, right. That's what I wanted to ask you about. Like, how not to be that crazy bunny just like jumping all over the place, saying, "Hey, can you partner with me? Partner with me, anybody, for like any reason you have there." How to focus and at what point, because maybe if you're a very early stage, those partnerships make sense because at least they're giving you like backlinks or whatever, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
mentioned everywhere. It's free publicity. But at what point should it become strategic? At what point should you clearly understand what's your partner and where you shouldn't really go?
I would actually argue you should do it very early. Because like the thing is like a partnership that fails also has negative implications, right? You now have somebody who said, "Oh, we partnered with this company and it was useless." So there is like it's this balance, like you said. There's upsides too. People know you,
Yeah.
but it's also it didn't work, right? Like, so I would actually argue if I would do this again, I would be a lot more strategic. I would sit down. I would recommend to people just talk to your customers, like ask your customers like we actually didn't ask them that question. They came to us and told us these are who we work with and I want you to integrate. But ask your customers like, who do you work with, which agencies, which tech platforms, etc. How do you work with them, what's missing? And your customers are probably going to tell you exactly what they want. And if your customers want something, then your prospects will want that too. And it also means that there's a story. So I would take that step. I would go through customers. I would then really limit it to 2 or 3 partners that truly kind of where you have a strong feeling, right? You can analyze it this only so much, but you're probably going to know it. Like if you sit down and truly think about this, like who are the people we really need to get close to? And we did that at some point in time in my previous role. Initially, everything, and then we really understood like who we need to get close to, and then invest in those 2 3 partnerships. And the cool thing that then happens is if you do it right and if you make them happy, these people, they talk to other companies, and the salespeople, you know how it is in SaaS, everybody works
Yeah,
everywhere.
everyone
What
knows
we've seen is,
everyone.
yeah, and we had like a lot of salespeople that knew us and had sold with us, went into other companies, reached out, brought us in, and all of a sudden we had all of these relationships all over the board. But it happened because we nailed the a very few relationships at some point in time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. All right, and another point about partnerships is that it's kind of difficult to track their value and their ROI,
Mhm.
right? So, what could partnerships bring? What are the success metrics for the partnerships, except for money?
Yeah, I love that question. The reason why I love it is because when you talk to a lot of people, even in partnerships, about why partnerships are important, they're going to tell you, well, partnerships, and it's true, helps everybody. It can help, with marketing, sales, customer success, product. They're basically like, hey, we're this magical department that makes everybody better, which is true to some extent. A good ecosystem can really enhance your entire organization. But the problem with that is if you don't measure success, if you don't have clear goals, then you will end up just messing around. So I think like goal setting is important, and figuring out like also focus again, right? Like what do we want to do as a partnership team? And if you could, for example, be like, hey, we want to co-market. Co-marketing is huge. Like you can, having do simple things like webinars together, but like lots of other stuff. And yeah, what do you measure? I think very often you should measure revenue, like impacted revenue by that. It's not that difficult, or generated leads. But you also more subtle things. What we, for example, saw is we did co-marketing with very big organizations, and we saw that gave us a lot of reach and credibility, also for other partnerships. Because if you do a webinar with Salesforce and Salesforce says this is awesome, um, then that's going to open the door for a lot of other things, and it's hard to measure that. Um, so it's like co-marketing. It could be co-selling, right? Like your sales teams sharing leads, etc. Yeah, so you should be tracking leads, opportunities. It's not that easy because like like you can easily track sourced revenue, right? A partner brought you like a deal and told you like introduced you, and then you have the lead source partner. But imagine you already have a deal, you're working on that, and the partner comes in and makes a recommendation. It's like, hey, by the way, we love these guys. This is an awesome tool. They're going to make you very happy. You should buy them. That happens a lot to us. But how do you measure that? Like, where do you track that? You might need a field on the opportunity level that says influence, or I've seen people use tools like Gong to actually listen into calls and listen who was mentioned, but it's hard. And yeah, customer success, reduce churn, right? Like you could have a story where customer success is impacted. And I, for example, saw that our customers where we worked with partners, we had a lot less churn. But again, you got to measure it. You got to have it as a goal. You can't just be as a partnership department. Hey, we help everybody. We are, just you should just understand that we're very important, because then you're probably going to get to the point where people are like, yeah, you help everybody, but you kind of don't, because you don't have a clear goal and you don't show us how you improve. And that's why a lot of partnership teams got laid off in the last half year or so, just because they couldn't really unfortunately prove the value that they were bringing.
Right. Yeah, because partnership is built in a relationship, and you kind of you have a clear goal of like where you're going and what you're going to have together in the future. It's not like you're
Yeah.
establishing a partnership and then waiting for something to happen. So okay, thank you for sharing that. Just a few more questions, and the first one is obviously, can you share a hack that helps you with partnerships, something that always works and you love it?
Yeah. So I think very often what people get wrong is they go into a discussion about a partnership and they talk about what could be done. What I love to do and what I've always done is I try to rather I looked at like who I want to partner with. I found like a shared customer, for example, and I made them happy. And then I got the customer to approach the partner and tell them, hey, this company is awesome. You should partner with them. And, that kind of stuff. Or I had a case study that we prepared with the customer, also talking about the potential partner in good ways. And then just being like, hey, by the way, we already have like these customers. They love what we do together and there was no work for you involved. And it's just like, that's just a kind of a process kind of shift, right? Because you don't do all the work and then you see if you can generate value. You come in and you're already bringing value. You're already bringing proof of value. So I always love that because it's not what a lot of companies do, and it's very refreshing, I think, to partnership teams. Huh?
Okay, so showing the value through your work, through what you're doing
Yeah.
for others. Okay, cool. All right.
But before you
Um,
even talk to the partner. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. I'll write that down. But one more question. What was the biggest aha moment for what you're doing with Superglue? What was the something that maybe made you pivot or made you I
Yeah.
don't know, change your marketing, or something that was so influential to you?
Yeah, good. It's an interesting one. So one of the things that we did that really changed, I think, the trajectory was so initially when we built Superglue was like a platform where you need to log in, right? So it's like a tool where people need to log in, and that's where they get all the information. Then we realized that like it's so hard to tell people to log into yet another tool every day and do work in there. So what we did is we realized like everybody uses Slack, and we started enabling them to use Superglue out of Slack. So we push notifications in there. We even let them, take actions in Slack, and that was a game changer. It was just because it eliminated the friction of people having to do something. We decided let's bring Superglue to where they already are, and that was, I think, in retrospect, it was a pretty smart decision.
That's super cool. I saw a demo and I really loved it. It was like, wow, that is so straightforward. You're just like sitting in your Slack and you're getting all this notification, and you can customize it or like approve or decline it. It's yeah, super cool.
We didn't start out
Okay,
like
and
that. There was obviously a journey of getting there, but yeah, it's it's that classic process of finding product market fit, finding
right.
value, overcoming all of the friction that you have in the adoption process of a new tool.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about value in a second. So that's that's a question that everybody gets. What was the biggest win and the biggest failure for you in Superglue, or maybe for Superglue in general?
Yeah. Yeah, another big question because that I could talk about for hours. I would actually say part of it was what we just talked about, like the driving adoption, figuring out how to generate value. Because we really people understood what we want to do and people liked it, but then translating a product vision into kind of a product is just this is just I mean it's startup life. It wasn't the biggest failure, but it's always painful, and I've done this before. And I always told people, like my previous company, I always tell people, oh, it took us probably 2 or 3 years to truly get to product market fit when where things started to take off. And I always tell people, hey, that was like the shittiest time of my life. Just in terms of
Oh, wow.
constantly doing this uphill battle, and this frustration and the question like, am I doing the right things? And Superglue was a lot shorter, I have to admit. There's still elements of it, like we're early stage company, but yeah, every time you go through this, it's just painful. It's painful to have a
True.
vision and not being able to connect it to a product and not being able to connect it to people's understanding of what you do. And so it was this process of working through it. And yeah, this Slack realization, bringing the stuff into Slack, was just one little puzzle piece. It was a very important one. I would say the central one. So it's that was, I would say, just it felt like failure, because you start out, you have the excitement, and then what you realize, what's actually one of our investors told me, he said like, hey, like success isn't something you reach with like one important step. You don't like make a certain step and all of a sudden everything is good and there's success. And we always think that, right? Especially early
Yeah.
days, you always like, you have this vision and you feel like you launch and everything's perfect. But it's what he said is like, it takes 1,000 steps in the right direction. And I think that's how we see it, where we try to like make a lot of small decisions that take us in the right directions, and those compound. If you have, make a couple of right decisions every week, every day, I think you get to that point where all of a sudden there's that, you
Yeah.
start to
There
feel
is
it,
the
and
switch.
you don't feel like a failure anymore.
Right. I really loved that trend of a post on LinkedIn. Like, how many years did your overnight success take? And I was like, yes,
Yeah,
that's so
yeah,
on point. Like, definitely,
yeah.
because there are so many steps. So, what was the win?
What made me really happy was like just the super glue, but also my previous company. I think the biggest validation, you talked about this, like validation isn't fund, isn't a VC give you money. Validation isn't likes. Validation is ultimately a company that is really understands what you do, like understands the space you're in, and that wants your solution. We're that both in, I remember in Optilize, where we had like some of the best companies that really run incredible marketing. Like we won HelloFresh, they're just really known for their CRM, and just when they started to implement us worldwide, that was just mind blowing. The same was like true with like Superglue. There are a couple of companies that we really admire, that really like high performance partner organizations. And when these organizations that are really sophisticated like what you do and decide to implement you, I think it's a strong kind of validation, because you always find somebody who is kind of desperate and you can kind of convince them to buy your stuff. But if you can convince somebody that is really, really knowledgeable, I think that's a strong signal. So yeah, us reaching kind of that point, it's really really exciting, and you get different input. You have to work with these companies. Like if you want to build a sophisticated tool, like if you want to be kind of on the kind of leading edge, you need these kinds of companies that give you feedback and input. So yeah, I think that's success.
True. No, I mean, I'm not arguing with that. It sounds beautiful. So yeah, congratulations on your success then.
It's a journey. It's like it's a blend between failure and success always.
Yeah, true. Okay, so the last question would be about SaaS industry in general, right? You've already said you're implementing AI. Do you think do you think that AI is going to be something that's going to change the SaaS industry completely? Or is there any trend that you're saying that it's going to be the same, it's going to have the same or maybe even a greater impact?
Yeah. I'm very bullish on like on AI. Like I think it's like AI is like one of the biggest enablers that we've seen for SaaS to generate a lot more value. It's obviously also a disruptor. I think a lot of companies are going to feel the pain, because it's just like AI makes it easier to disrupt a lot of business models or replicate business models that were a lot more complex, right? Like just build clones of companies that they built a solution with 50 AI engineers like over 5 years, and now somebody comes around the corner and just builds the same tool on a weekend. And I've seen this, like I've
Yeah.
seen these cases. So I think AI is really going to change the game. I believe that, and this kept me up for months. Like it was just like I was so afraid that even at Superglue, even as an early stage company, it's like, would we have built, a question we always ask ourselves is like, would we have built a different company knowing that AI is where it is today? And I think you have to ask yourself that question. And if the answer is yes, then you need to figure out how you can become that company, because otherwise somebody else is going to build that company, is going to disrupt you. I think I also see a lot of shitty AI integrations or in AI use cases. I think, a lot of we do it too, to be honest. Like everybody is AI everywhere. But
Yeah.
just because you have a ChatGPT integration doesn't mean you generate more value. If you have a ChatGPT integration in your tool that people will help people save 3 minutes a month, then you're not an AI tool. You're not an AI enabled, and AI is not going to help you win more deals. And I see a lot of that lately. So I think that's what you need to think about as a company. To be honest, as Superglue, like we were lucky because what we build is AI perfectly complements a lot of the things we do. But I would be lying if I told you, hey, we strategically knew this would happen. It just, we were fortunate. It just, a lot of things that we build are like well suited. And, AI makes our life a lot easier in terms of the features we're building and that we want to build. But there's an element of luck. There are some companies that did incredibly well, and now somebody comes around the corner and disrupts them. So do I think that, it will change? Yes. Do I think that everything that was built is going to be disrupted and AI is going to kill all these business models and are going to, I'm not, I don't think so. I did for a little while, but I've come to the conclusion that no.
You've come to
For
your
now.
senses. Okay.
Or for now,
Right, until the next ChatGPT version. But okay. All right, that makes sense. I mean, don't we all think that, ChatGPT, first it was ChatGPT making us all dumb and like education is no longer valid, and then, ChatGPT takes all our
Hallucinated.
jobs, and then ChatGPT ChatGPT is changing the whole business. So, yeah, maybe. Not now.
Who knows? I think the important point is I did a webinar last week and we talked quite a bit about that stuff. And I think my personal point of view is that I showed this visual where I said like how people perceive AI and what AI actually does. The perception is AI is going to come in and it's going to eliminate all our jobs, right? Like in partnerships. Oh, we don't need a partner manager anymore. The AI is going to do it. I think the reality is different. AI, just like automation, is not going to replace the people, but it's going to make them a lot more productive. It's going to change the way they work. And I think as a knowledge worker, whatever you do, I think you need to build an understanding of what is possible, a capability to use these possibilities, so that you don't get to the point where you're stuck like, the people, I don't know, 30 years ago when email came up, they were like, oh, I'm good. I know how to write a letter.
Right. I'm just going to call.
Yeah, but that existed. I remember, like, I barely, but because I was really like on the edge when that stuff started to become more important. But there were people who were like, oh, I don't need email. There were people who just refused to use email and they're gone. They were also older, but I think it's always like, I think with every new technological kind of shift, you need to adapt, not blindly, but consciously and proactively.
Right. So it is going to ultimately change how we're doing things, but not going to eliminate us altogether in 6 months.
Hopefully.
Okay. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Okay, Rob, I mean, it's been amazing talking with you. Obviously, know a ton about partnership management, and I would love to dig deeper and to maybe do another episode. I'm just, uh,
Love
doing a
it.
hook here, saying your reaction, yes or
I
no.
love a good salesperson always has to book the next meeting in the call already.
Yes.
So I like it.
Are you free in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's exactly. Let's see your calendar.
Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing the story. And Superglue seems super exciting. So I can't wait to try it and leverage it for what I do for SaaS Group. And
Love it.
yeah, hope you can help me.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for having me.
Same here. Thank you, Rob. Take care.
Bye.